Hi, Sree. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining me on Craft Jazz today.
Hey, nice to meet you. Good to see you again, Palak. Good to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time for me and talking a little bit about the world of data. It's obviously a big, massive, all-encompassing world, and there's just so much to unpack there. So I thought it'd be great to invite you for a chat on New Search Horizons Craft Chats, and pick your brains a little bit on the crazy things that are happening in the data universe.
Sure. Yeah, glad to be here.
So, Sree, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about your passions, your career, and what you've been focusing on.
Yeah, sure. I am a technologist by background. I've been in the IT space for a little over 20 years. And I sort of started my career as a developer, as a programmer. But I think midway through my career journey, I sort of morphed into a consultant, so to speak, where I did a bit of technical consulting, and then really went into process consulting and solution architecture.
Okay.
Where I really like to play and be is, in the intersection between business and technology.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy it quite a bit, and really looking to what motivates me and energizes me is solving business problems with technology. So that's really what my background and my passion is about.
That's amazing. Great, great. Definitely a guy who's been there, done that. I'm sure you have a lot to share. So when I was thinking about, inviting you, I was really curious in general about, you know, how much COVID has changed the landscape. I mean, I can talk for a couple hours on just how it's changed the talent landscape, uh, but I was also thinking about the world of data and how it's ballooned in the last couple of years on so many different realms. What's your take on the evolution of the data ecosystem post COVID? Where was data before COVID and where is it now? I know it's a big picture question, but I thought you would be a perfect guy to ask.
Yeah. So let me step back a little bit to answer the question, right? So if you really think about the genesis in the last 15, 20 years or so, the internet came about in late 90s, early 2000s, and really what was in 2007, 8 was all about mobile phones.
Mm-hmm.
And the early cloud companies came around 2012 through 2015 with the
Mm-hmm.
AWS and Azure and GCP coming up.
That's right.
What we really notice now is a lot more data in the forefront, and what COVID has done specifically to answer your question is accelerated, the technology innovation driven by data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we really see it as the third wave, going from mobile to cloud and the convergence of data really converging, along with cloud and really being part of, business decisions and drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would have happened, like let's say, 5 years down the line, COVID has accelerated it, by, many folds. So that's really what I see and what I observe, speaking to large, customers is that it's, really, it's driving the adoption of technology. I mean, specifically looking at data, so on and so forth.
Very interesting. Uh, you're talking about some of your customers. Are there particular sectors or industries you've noticed accelerate a little faster than others? Who's really jumping ahead of the line here when it comes to data adoption and allowing that data to transform the way they actually operate and do business?
Right. So, generally speaking, all industries have picked up the space, pace on,
Okay.
technology innovation, as well as using data on the forefront. Particularly if you look about why using technology, I mean, people think about, from increasing their top line, on the innovation side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
The other way of looking at it is how do I streamline and how do I, reduce my costs, right?
mm-hmm.
And, specifically when I think about, industries, financial services is something that comes to my mind in terms of, being on the, cusp of innovation. Primarily because I mean they are a large user of data.
Mm-hmm.
They have much more money to spend, should I
True.
say, compared to other industries, like,
Very true.
retail is a cutthroat margin. The travel industry wasn't doing particularly well, but I really look at financial services as driving a lot of innovation in the fintech space.
Hmm.
They are a big user of data. Also, like, as you notice, revolution around crypto and blockchain that has really come into the
Yeah.
forefront with COVID. It has been there for about 8-10 years now, but again, going back to COVID has accelerated a lot of these things. So I do find the financial services space being on the cutting edge of leveraging data.
Hmm.
In fact, I mean, to quote one of the large banks, the Digital Bank of Singapore,
Hmm.
they in fact have more developers than bankers. So
Wow.
that's really how they, and this is like a statement that they made out in the public, is that that's how they look at things, is
That's
that they
phenomenal.
really want to accelerate it. So that's just an example of how we see things now.
Wow, that is a pretty serious transformation, and way of thinking. So they're definitely ahead of the curve. Pretty amazing case study, I'm sure they would be for many other fintech and financial services organizations. Uh, so so that being said, what are obviously there's a lot there are a lot of lot more moving pieces now, just in the world of data. Many more tools and technologies, as you've noted, entering the ecosystem. Many more startups being funded in this space, in helping all types of companies leverage data in more innovative and interesting ways. Uh, with all that great stuff going on, what are you really hopeful for going into 2022, in terms of more sizable changes you hope and expect to see in the next 12 months? Is there something in your pipeline that you've noticed that will hopefully evolve, take another leap and bound, or do you think the changes that will come through in the next year will be more iterative as people start to take stock of the reality of COVID and the way the business
Yeah, I
world
mean,
is?
like, I feel like a couple of things going around in terms of, AI, ML, technologies. I mean, obviously are a big user of data. Not, I mean, and, to your point about many unicorns and startups being funded, I mean, they're
Hmm.
definitely a space with, data science. It is sort of like towards the tail end where it is becoming a lot more practical and, being able to use it. Uh,
Hmm.
there are, what people are really focused on is how can you make it more explainable, more usable, more realistic. So I think there
Interesting.
will be a convergence of, a lot of that happening.
Hmm.
Again, I commented a little bit about, the blockchain space. I mean, there is definitely a lot of, market interest there.
Right.
There will be policy, in terms of how to adopt it. Again, crypto may, start with that, leading that charge. But really it is, what I do see is by the end of the year, how do they actually and practically impact businesses? And, will, business use that as an alternative,
Hmm.
technology from a mainstream perspective? I mean, there is a little bit of shakeup, that will happen there.
Hmm.
But, again, using data in a centralized way, decentralized way doesn't really, matter. The other thing that, I do anticipate and happen is a lot of cloud adoption.
Okay.
People are going to move to the cloud. Again, I've spoken to several, companies where they've been mandated to move their data out of the data center, and
Interesting.
they need to move to the cloud. And there is an option of, you can always be a hybrid, but you have to figure out which cloud partner you want to do. So
Hmm.
there will be a lot more cloud acceleration, and people will be asked why not cloud. The
Right.
question earlier used to be why should I go to cloud? Now the question is why do you not want to go? So
Wow.
look for a lot of that becoming mainstream now and really tipping the curve that way.
Absolutely. That's a big shift in thinking. Hey, Sree, thank you so much. This was a fantastic, brief discussion we've had on the evolution of data, and especially post COVID. Really appreciate your perspective. I am very much looking forward to our next conversation.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Take care.